Alex Balekian, welcome to Conversations with Peter Boghossian. How are you? Oh no, did we lose him? Alex. Oh no. Did we lose him, Reed? Oh, did you lose me, Reed? Oh no. Oh no, we were all prepped and good to go and it was sounding great. Should we start again? Alex Balekian. Oh no. Reed, should I just close it down and start it again, or is the problem on his end? Oh boy. I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know what happened. We were just testing the connection and it worked perfectly fine. I don't know what happened. I think we should probably start it again, Reed, end the stream and start it again. Sorry, everybody, for this technical glitch. Don't know why this happened. Not sure what to do. All right, Reed, I'm gonna cancel out of this and then jump back in. Oh, Reed said no. Don't cancel out. All right. Well, anyway, I'm here. I hope hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching me talk to myself. Here's Alex.
Yes. As soon as we went live, the Wi-Fi died.
Okay. All right, Alex, you're back. Hi, Alex.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on Conversations with Peter Boghossian. I appreciate it. Just so full disclosure. All right. So you're running for Congress, and full disclosure, I invited you and I invited Laura Freedman, and you're running against Laura to have a conversation with me. You accepted that. And again, this is just to be completely transparent, full disclosure. Laura did not. So I had ChatGPT. Reed had set up ChatGPT to be Laura. It was probably a better Laura than Laura could have been. But I thought it was interesting, and people are certainly welcome to watch that interview anytime they want. Okay, so you're running as a Republican.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the interview with I just love how her picture was there. But anyway, so you're running as a Republican and
a disenfranchised Republican, yes.
A disenfranchised Republican. And no, I mean, I don't care about this either way, but it probably should be said that you're gay and you're openly gay. So you're a gay Republican running in California.
Yep.
So why are you running? Like what, why, how come?
Because I've reached my breaking point. Like most people in California, I've reached my breaking point. I am not a politician. I've never run for public office. I am a practicing physician.
Doctor,
but between the high taxes and the homelessness and the high crime and everything just kind of going off the rails, and I keep telling people my golden state has turned to rusted brown. I said, I'm getting tired of waiting for the perfect candidate. I'm going to be that perfect candidate, and I threw my hat in the ring.
Good for you. It's always refreshing to see when people bring people who are not politicians come. That's what to me democracy has always been about. So if you were to say, like, what are the top issues that your potential constituents, your future constituents care about? What would they be?
So if you look at, what we are seeing on the ground, and there's also what the polls are saying. So the Public Policy Institute of California says the economy is front and center. Economy and cost of living are definitely front and center, the high cost of everything, which mirrors what people on the ground are telling us. But there is also, especially in the bedroom communities, so Glendale, Burbank, Sunland, Tahunga, parental rights, parents sending their kids to school, working hard, paying property taxes to fund these public schools, and the public schools are not fulfilling their duties of teaching academic excellence. Instead, they're teaching social justice and DEI. So those are the two really big things: are cost of living in the economy and also parental rights that are driving this. In addition, Just under those are the rampant crime and homelessness that are not controlled by people like George Gascon, our progressive district attorney, who has an apologist attitude towards criminals.
Yeah, it's extraordinary to me. I want to play a clip, if I may, because I think this is directly relevant to our conversation. That's why I'm playing it. Reed, or why Reed's playing it. Reed, would you mind pulling up the Elon Musk clip? This was just an extraordinary.
And I just feel like, look, it's not that it's the one straw; it's just the final straw.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a cumulative issue. Fair enough.
It's a cumulative issue,
right? So it's not dramatic grandstanding. It's
no, and moreover, I've had conversations with Gavin Newsom before where I said, if you pass legislation like this, if you sign legislation like this, that in my view puts children in danger, I will move my companies out of California. And he knew that ahead of time.
Okay, so what's he talking about there?
AB 1955, which was a law that was actually quite quickly passed by both houses of the state legislature, where if children change their pronouns at school, if children decide to identify by a different gender, the teachers or any other school officials who know are not required to tell the parents. In fact, this law protects them from keeping it secret. And so it's funny because they say, oh, this is to prevent children from being outed. Well, no, because everybody at school will know that the child is going by different pronouns, maybe dressing differently, maybe using a different bathroom. Everybody is in on it except the parents. So you are outing that child to everyone at school. The only people who are being kept in the dark are the parents. And this law legally protects teachers and other school officials who keep the secret from parents.
Okay, so that's a pretty extraordinary. So one of the things that I found difficult about these conversations is that you'll say things and people will say that's not true.
It is absolutely true. I mean, again, what they've done is, unfortunately, they've conflated. They say they will not reveal, it says, sexuality, gender identity. So they are unfairly lumping sexuality with gender identity. So there are, young gay adolescents who are homosexual, who don't have any problems with their gender. Somebody like me who is in school, right? That is not who we're talking about, because that child just kind of wants to keep it secret from everybody. Then there's the other children, the children with gender dysphoria, who that is being kept from the parents. And so I'm speaking here as a physician. Gender dysphoria is a diagnosable psychiatric condition. Gender dysphoria has an association with a higher risk of self-harm and suicide. By definition, therefore, a diagnosis of gender dysphoria is a life-threatening diagnosis. Why would you keep that secret from the parents? Who do you think you are keeping that secret from the parents?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's, because obviously I have a strong opinion about this, but I'm trying to think, are there any other life-threatening diagnoses that teachers should or do keep from parents? I can't think of one, so why would we make an exception to this one?
And correct. Again, you are using common sense in a state that has been taken over by people who completely lack that common sense. And one of the frequent reasons they give is, oh, we don't want to out these children because their parents might disown them, they might abuse them, they might kill them, they might throw them out on the streets. If you suspect a parent will abuse a child, will abandon a child, there is already Child Protective Services. There are already processes in place for you to report that. There is a transparent process in place. You didn't need to make this new law. So I think this was simply whipping up their base, playing to these progressive ideals and trying to, capitalize on the identity politics that these people have been doing.
Okay, there's so much here to unpack. Why don't we do this, if we may, please? There's another clip that I'd like to play that went uber viral, again, in that same conversation with Jordan, with Elon Musk, where he talks about his experience with his own kid, which is just, I mean, it's just ghastly and horrific. It's just heartbreaking. Reed, would you mind pulling that clip up, please? And I'd like to show Alex that, and I'd like to get some comments on it because I think it's directly relevant to our conversation.
Well, it
sort of like
happened
the
to one of
nameless
my
issue.
it happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he didn't.
That was a lie right from the outset. No reliable clinician ever believed that. There was never any evidence for that. And also, if there's a higher suicide rate, the reason is because of the underlying depression and anxiety, and not because of the gender dysphoria. And every goddamn clinician knows that too. And they're too cowardly to come out and say it. Right? And so and then we end up in exactly, when I saw that lie start to propagate, it just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It's like, I see. So you're telling parents that unless they agree to this radical transformation, that their children are going to die, and you think that's moral, and you think that's true. That is so pathological that it's almost incomprehensible. I can't imagine anything worse. I can't imagine a therapist doing anything worse than that, or sitting by idly and remaining silent while his colleagues are doing it. It's pathetic.
It's incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
It won't stop till that happens.
Yeah.
It'll just go underground. Puberty blockers are being accessed online by kids all the time through non-medical channels. So yeah,
Right.
It's not going to stop. Yeah. Okay, so I see. So that's
So I was
connection.
tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and so I lost my son essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard that. That is heartbreaking.
That's exactly the word. That's exactly the word it is. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking because it's just ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's so again, in full disclosure, I invited your political opponent, Laura Freedman, to talk to me. She would not talk to me. She refused. And then she said she was too busy. Instead of saying, that's the other thing, I don't like lying. Instead of saying, you're not too busy for a half an hour conversation. No, I just don't want to have a conversation with you. Okay, well, there's a person you can trust. But no, she lied. Okay, so what is her position on this?
I mean, her position, she voted yes. They voted unanimously, that they being the Democrats, they voted unanimously to pass it, and it was signed off by our governor. And, that's part and parcel what she stands for. She is a proud progressive. She was one of the founding members of the Progressive Caucus in the California State Assembly. So everything that you can imagine, the gender cults, the climate cults, sacrificing cars for bicycle lanes, getting rid of your gas stoves because they're, polluting the environment, and substituting them for electric stoves. So that's everything that she stands for, and just pushing all of her ideals on other people.
Okay, so this is really important. I want to drill down on this. There was a wonderful piece by Rita. Could you pull that piece up? I mentioned to you. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Lee Rivers. He's a Canadian. Again, if I lived in a sane world, I would not have to say this, but the world in which we're living is completely insane. He's gay, and he has made the point that Andrew Doyle and many others have made, that this is a kind of sickening homophobia, like telling, and both my kids are gay, and I just had a conversation about this, like thank the gods that you were never subjected to this, like that you had sane parents and nobody ever told you were born in the wrong body and you had to take puberty blockers and have your testicles removed. And it's just so monstrous to me, but I'm trying to get inside the head of why someone would think this is a good thing. And is the reason they think it's a good thing because they think that the W path, for example, they think that there's sufficient data from these quote unquote independent organizations, or even when even if you've looked into it for like 5 minutes, maybe not 5, maybe half an hour. If you've looked into it, but certainly if you're making policy decisions, it should be more than half an hour. What is going on in her head with this gender affirming care stuff? Again, even that language is slanted. What does she think? I mean, I know you're not her and she won't speak to me, but what do you think is going on in their heads?
So this is going to be a very extended answer, but I'll tell you, I think what's going on in her head, there's one of two things. Either she genuinely believes it because she's drunk the Kool-Aid, or she wants to get ahead in the Democratic Party, and this is what she has to hitch her wagon to do so. And so going back to George Peterson talking, and he was extremely angry, and I would also reflect his upset. I don't call these physicians, and I'm not going to, I use that term loosely, the ones who practice gender affirming care. They are not physicians. They are medical activists, because I, as a physician, I practice evidence-based care. And I also, as a researcher. So Peter, I'm a health services researcher, and I have written clinical practice guidelines, and there is a specific algorithm that you're supposed to go down as far as developing the clinical question. Are puberty blockers and gender affirming surgery superior to counseling alone when looking at suicide risk in children with gender dysphoria, right? You have a clearly delineated question, and there's a clear pathway that you go down as far as reviewing the medical record, reviewing the scientific literature, seeing the availability of data. And then you go ahead and you say, okay, based on this question that we asked, there are data to support this treatment over that treatment, versus there are no strong data. We need more research. Therefore, we cannot give a recommendation one way or the other. And with gender affirming care, it's that latter situation that I told you. There are a grand total of zero high quality clinical trials that examine whether puberty blockers and surgery are better than conventional therapy, talking it out, when in mitigating suicide risk among children with gender dysphoria. So that's number one. Those medical activists, they are not going on the evidence. Number two, if you're going to go on low quality data, we do the only data that I found, comparative data, and this is low quality, but it's still data in children and this was a pilot project in 1991, where researchers looked at a gender dysphoria clinic, all boys, and then they administered a survey to the boys' mothers. Okay, a survey that just kind of screened for psychiatric conditions, and then they went in the community and found age and education and socioeconomic status matched boys in the community without gender dysphoria, and administered the same survey to their mothers. And they found that in the general population, 3% of mothers have some underlying psychiatric condition, usually borderline personality disorder. And in the boys in the gender dysphoria clinic, that was increased 20-fold. 60% of the mothers met criteria to be diagnosed with a personality disorder, usually borderline personality disorder. So it turns out that there's quite a good hypothesis that we can test, that boys in a gender dysphoria clinic are actually gay boys with overbearing mothers. They're not girls trapped in boys' bodies. And so that is why I say that, these people... Shocking. Right. Shocking. Exactly. So when you say
totally obvious, right. Yeah.
Who thinks this is a good idea? So unfortunately, there are confused children with anxious parents. Many of the times, the parents there is some underlying psychiatric issue in them. And so this is why therapy, including the family, right, is probably going to be beneficial for everybody, rather than immediately shunting these children down an inexorable path of irreversible medical and surgical therapy. So like I said, I don't know what Laura Freedman thinks, what's going on in her mind. She could be one of those people who herself has something, depression, anxiety, and actually genuinely believe this. I'm not
I
sure.
was
I'm not
thinking,
going to
yeah,
comment on it,
yeah,
but
thinking that could be the case.
at the very least, she probably wants to climb the political ladder. And this is the Pledge of Allegiance that she must recite in order to do that.
It's very frustrating. I don't want to keep riding this hobby horse, but it is really frustrating to me that not have that conversation, because I'd really like to know what her thinking is, like not in a confrontational, hostile way, but why do you think this is a good thing? I mean, what maybe it's evidence. I mean, I'm a big fan of evidence. What is your evidence for believing this? But maybe it's not evidence. Maybe, I don't know. And I also heard that and thought that there could be causally, it could be Munchausen's or or there could be kind of causal factors. But again, I think you're correct. It's pointless to speculate about these things. But the sheer magnitude of these consequences for children, and again, I personally draw the line at children as opposed to decisions that consenting adult or an adult wants to make about his or her own body. One would think that to have a policy position on something with that much seriousness and consequence, man, you better have overwhelming evidence on your side.
Right.
I mean, this is not something to screw around with. This is as heavy as you can get. So you better make sure before you advocate a policy. And if you don't know, that's fine. That's great. That's a wonderful stance. Say, I don't know.
Right.
I'm looking at the data. We're looking into it. In fact, not only is there no shame in that, that's what sane, rational, reasonable, evidence-driven people do. They don't pretend to know things they don't know. They say, I don't know. Okay, so that's one that's come up. Yeah, do you want to say something?
I was going to say you are actually don't feel bad because, and again, I'm not, let me be clear. I'm not saying that Laura Freedman has any underlying psychiatric condition. No, that wasn't for her, but she is avoided. She's avoided you. She's avoided other people who have wanted to host a debate. In fact, there's also been a staunch Democrat who donated to our campaign, and I called him and I said, it says, you're a staunch Democrat according to your records. And he says, yes. And I also know Laura Freedman personally. And I asked her, how could you vote as you did on AB 1955? And he says, she didn't give me a satisfactory response. And so I Googled Laura Freedman opponent. And that is, so even being avoidant with people who know her in her circle. But one of the things Jordan Peterson also said, I'm very upset that, doctors, clinicians haven't spoken out against this. California passed in 2021 a law that barred physicians from saying anything other than the state's official policy on COVID. So, for example, I'll give you an example of Paxlovid, the drug that they give people when they initially have COVID. That drug was not life-saving. In fact, the side effect profile gave people horrible nausea and diarrhea, and it just caused more problems than it actually fixed. But it was very lucrative for the drug companies. But I, as a physician, couldn't tell my patients Paxlovid is garbage. Paxlovid is not going to work, because they passed a law that would take the licenses away from physicians who did that. Laura Freedman voted for that bill. So there is precedence of her muzzling physicians about specific medical topics. They did it on COVID. Who's to say that they won't do it on gender affirming care?
And just to be clear, she's not a physician.
Oh God, no. No, she is a no, she came here to work in film and then just kind of glided into politics.
Yeah. Okay. So this is obviously, a concern to people. It's a concern to me. And I think it's also a concern because it's a kind of, not a litmus test, but a barometer for other insane things people believe. So if somebody believes this, it kind of casts to me a kind of skepticism again, unless I would really have to hear their reasoning for this stuff. So what else do the people in your constituency? You said the economy. Would you mind talking about that, please?
Yeah. So we have a high tax, high crime, high homelessness state. Our gas is hovering right around $6 a gallon. But the people like Laura Freedman say, you need to get out of your cars. You need to, drive less. But then when you ask, is this helping? No, it's not helping. We still need to do more. And the property tax, for example, we have a state proposition on the ballot in November. California is famous for passing Prop 13 about 40 years ago, which, put a limit on what greedy government officials who are addicted to spending tax dollars can do as far as raising our taxes. And so they have put on the ballot a proposition to lower the 2/3 threshold for, more affordable housing for homeless people. Okay. So it's essentially to increase our property taxes. My opponent wrote that law, which is as a proposition. So, when people say, even Democrats who say cost of living is crazy high, your property taxes that you pay, that's the base of what you pay. That's supposed to fund the schools. That's going up as per my opponent. Other things, people go out on the streets. They say, oh, you should use public transit. Get out of your car. Public transit is a mobile homeless shelter. It's a mobile mental institution. And there's a better than average chance that you'll get fatally stabbed on public transit in Los Angeles. And you laugh, but this is exactly what it is. So we have high crime. We have an increased rate of break-ins, home invasion robberies, perpetrated by people who get a slap on the wrist by people like George Gascon, who is a very well-known, very poorly liked district attorney. And my opponent, Laura Freedman, says, I support the reelection of George Gascon. I mean, you can't make any of this up. So what we do is we just merely have to remind people that their daily ills, the high crime, the homeless people that they have to step over, and all of the high taxes they have to pay to somehow run this dysfunctional state are that lands squarely in the lap of people like my opponent, Laura Freedman.
Yeah, it's funny. That's why I've been thinking, or at least giving more credence to the possibility that we could be in a simulation, because this whole thing is so utterly crazy to me. Right? I think a couple of days before the pandemic, and then I want to go back to what you said, just a quick anecdote. I was in the Orange Line. I used to live in Portland, and I saw somebody had erected, this is a totally true story. Someone had erected a tent on the train, and they were like living in the train. And I went back and I told an individual, I told somebody that, like, look, I've seen somebody on the Orange Line, they've erected the tent. And she said to me, no, that's not true. No one's erected a tent. I'm like, and she said, well, next time you see someone with a tent on the train, you take a picture. I'm like, oh shit, I'm never gonna find someone with it. Like, it's never gonna happen. And the very next day, I went back and there was someone there with a tent, living on another person with a tent. Okay, you mentioned something about spending money, and I'm also laughing because Reed lives in LA, and I can attest firsthand to what you just said. So you mentioned something about politicians, spending a lot of money and these crazy deficits that we're running.
Yeah.
Reed, would you please pull up a tweet? Yeah, Elon Musk. America is going to be bankrupt, and he talks about the deficit. And I said, nobody cares. I've been talking about this forever. Nobody cares. Like, people just don't care. They don't care. Interest payments on the U.S. debt will shatter. I don't even know what that number is this year. Eating 76% of all income taxes collected. So it went from, it's been rising steadily. So California is not doing well in terms of their deficits. And I was wondering if you comfortable speaking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I am. So somebody said, oh, you Republicans always want to lower taxes. It's just gonna, we still need services. And I say, it's not a dichotomy of a high tax bloated government system versus anarchy. I want a low tax, efficient, smaller government system. They say, oh, well, we need to spend more on schools. No, we spend $24,000 per year in California, and we rank 8th among all the states, whereas someplace like Texas spends half of that, $12,000, and they are consistently, above us. So we have high cost, low value education, high cost, low value infrastructure. The big problem lies in our pension system. We pay $25 billion every year for our public sector workers for their pension. And if I had my druthers, what I would do is I would actually buy them out of their pensions and convert them to 401ks. But for the position that I'm running for in Congress, that is neither here nor there. So what I want to do in Congress is, so two things. You asked me, what do I stand for? The two things that are near and dear to my heart, but that aren't popular, as you said, nobody cares, are number one, balanced budget. Number two, term limits. And I've said that, and I will
Okay.
say that with you. I will never vote for a budget.
Alex, we lost you. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Rafa. Oh no, Alex, you froze up. I was dying to hear that response too. Alex. Oh no, did we lose Alex? I think, did his internet go out? If his internet went out, are you there? Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Can you
sorry
hear
about
me?
that.
That's okay.
So
I was going
yes,
to
I
say
can hear you. Sorry about that.
proof
So
of California's failing infrastructure, your internet. So so go ahead.
so yeah, I will never vote yes for a budget that spends more than it takes in. That is my red line. I don't care if it's a Republican budget or a Democrat budget. We have a giant debt. We should pay down that debt. And again, I actually call Trump and the Republicans rhinos because in 2017 or 2018, they voted to increase the debt ceiling. Okay.
Right.
It's fine if you want to promise tax cuts, but first you cut spending. Number two, you balance the budget and start paying down the debt. And then number three, then you lower everybody's taxes. So that is one thing. That is one red line that I will not cross. I don't care whose budget it is. I will not vote for deficit spending. And so I think if we do that, and people will everybody says, why are the prices so high? Well, again, if you're a private citizen and you are opening up and maxing out credit cards, pretty soon your credit score is in the toilet. The loan rate that you'll get for buying a car or something is sky high because you have terrible credit. And that's exactly why the government from the central bank are sky high, because our monetary policy is terrible. So we need to be more fiscally responsible. And that's where I want to be. I want to be the adult in the room, right? Yes, spending cuts are going to be painful, but lying to you and telling you everything's going to be okay and giving handouts just so you can win re-election, just so you can buy votes, is precisely how we got into this problem in the first place.
Yeah, it's so disturbing, and I've been commenting about it and talking for a year, that the lack of people who care about this problem, and I'm wondering, maybe it's just too abstract. Well, thank you for caring. I mean, maybe it's just too abstract for the average American, or maybe they don't understand what austerity will mean, or maybe they just think we owe it to the Chinese and we don't have to pay it back, or maybe they don't think about it at all. Maybe they have no idea what a treasury bond is. They're just like, I do think that this is. Oh, let me ask you a question. What do you think one of the most important issues that we as a country face? Like, what are the top two or three to you, or the top one?
I think we need to redefine. I think we need to refocus our government back on us. I think our government works well for foreign countries. It works well for well-connected individuals and corporations and lobbyists. I don't think it works well for us, the average person. I say that, I believe that a government should focus on the health, wealth, and security of its own citizens before it does anything else. So health, right? Medicaid, protect those, bolster those, because that helps the common American. Wealth, Social Security, keep it, bolster it. Okay, don't cut that, because that helps the common individual. Security, I think 40% of our defense spending is on foreign countries. So I think we can still spend on us, right? Cut 40% of the defense budget and bolster our own border, our own security, before you actually start spending on other people. And I think that because we focus that vision that our government works for others, special interests rather than our interests, I think that's the biggest issue facing our nation. And then everything else, I think, will logically fall into place. When we start respecting ourselves, that is when other countries will start respecting us. So, for example, like China, they don't respect us because all of our manufacturing is over there. So even if we ask them, oh, hey, don't invade Taiwan, stop doing this military posturing, they'll say, fine, I'm just going to stop producing all the cheap shit that we do for you. And so we're in a bind, right? So the fact that we exported all of our manufacturing to foreign countries, why? Because corporations, we're just focusing on the bottom line. So that put us in a precarious position. So I think the fact that our government and our government's moves lost focus on us, that is the root of most of our problems.
Okay. So let's bring it down to the us then. something that you said that I want to talk about, the homeless problem.
Yep.
So that's a situation that's okay. So what is your position on homelessness, and how does that differ from your opponents?
I think we have not solved the homelessness problem because we have not treated it as the mental health and drug addiction problem that it truly is, plainly and simply. Everybody says affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. We've $26 billion in California. They don't even know where that money went on an audit. And in fact, our governor vetoed a new law that they tried to pass that would add an extra layer of auditing and accountability. He vetoed that. So we flushed a lot of money down the drain. What have we done? We've simply built buildings. So developers, labor unions that build those buildings, they're the ones who've profited. But nothing has actually been done to decrease homelessness. And in fact, it's gone up by 10% in the state. Our mayor, Karen Bass, so proudly declared that compared to 2023, the homeless population in LA decreased by 0.27%. 0.27%. So I say, as a physician, I need to diagnose the mental health and drug addiction issues. So it's a 3-pronged plan. Number one, for the severely mentally ill, these are the people that you see, they're talking, they're yelling at the paralyzed by schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Institutions hospitalize these people. We have learned from the past abuses that happened. We will not repeat them. Let's hospitalize them. Let's get them on their medications. Let's get them better, and then release them back in their home neighborhoods where their families are, just to help, keep them compliant. Now, they're the other people, the people who are drug addicted. They are not paralyzed by mental illness. They simply have such profound addiction that they prioritize drugs over having a roof over their heads, holding down a steady job. In LA, they've populated a high-rise building, $600,000 per unit, housing home. Cannot take care of themselves. How are they going to take care of a high-rise apartment building? Pretty soon, it's going to be the Towering Inferno, that disaster film from the 1970s. So what we need to do is we need to disband you see everywhere on these Instagram accounts, because those are hotbeds of drug dealing. Also, out of the 170,000 homeless people in California, 40% of them are from out of state. Their families, their support system, 40% of them are from out of state. So what would I do from Congress? I would find those people's families. I would transport them across state lines with federal dollars. So that their home states take them. Those federal dollars would pay for sober living. They would also pay for homeless housing that is paired with social workers, case managers, therapists that specialize in addiction counseling. And then so what you do is, we don't have enough shelter beds in California, but that's because we have a lopsided rule to shelter beds. You need to even out that ratio by reuniting people with their family members at home. And in the medical literature, the best chance of sobriety, of success, is when you have family-based counseling. And here in California, the state is not your family. Your tent city is not your family. Okay. Your relatives back home, they're the ones who are going to keep you on the straight and narrow. Finally, and this is can only be done from Congress, seal the border. We know that China is smuggling all of its fentanyl via Mexico, via our ports. Strengthen the border, right? Shut down the illegal flow of drugs, because you cannot expect these poor people to remain sober if there's a daily temptation of drugs in their neighborhoods.
Okay, so let's pause on the border thing and go back to
Yep.
the homeless. One of the things that Michael Schellenberger, the idea that he's informed me of, is that you can look at homeless encampments as open air drug bazaars, like they're just selling. And so he said that the idea that someone loses their job, and they just start sleeping on a sidewalk, that's just not the case. It's a combination of drug and mental health issues, and maybe they're covariant with each other, but looking at it through that lens, I think, is helpful. What does your opponent, what's her name again? Laura Freedman. What is her name? Is that her name? Yeah, Laura. What is Laura's position on this? She is.
So
Laura, you're welcome on the show. You're still welcome on the show. I don't know what you're afraid of.
Laura Freedman. So it's funny because according to the Public Policy Institute of California, right, front and center with everybody, number one is the economy. Number 2 is affordable housing. And then number 3 is crime and homelessness with parental rights. Laura Freedman's number 1, 2, and 3 is climate, climate, climate. So if you look at that same poll of people, only 4% of people rated climate as their number 1 issue. So this shows you how completely off base, off the pulse her assessment is. But that is what she focuses on. So she doesn't have a coherent, cogent plan on homelessness. What she does is she parrots the party line, which is affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing, not realizing that her policies on increasing property taxes to pay for things will increase rent for everybody, will increase prices for everybody, and cause homelessness for people who are living paycheck to paycheck. Her insistence on abandoning gas stoves in favor of electric stoves and increasing the demand for electricity.
You just can't
and
make it up.
40% increase in electricity prices over the last year in our city alone, in Glendale alone. So but they don't put 2 and 2 together. Their pie in the sky climate policies are at the root of causing affordable housing, the crisis. And I want to tell people this whole notion in California that they say, oh, we need to abandon gas stoves because they increase indoor air pollution. I'm an intensive care physician. I am also a lung specialist. There is not some epidemic of children and old people getting hospitalized and dying with asthma because of indoor air pollution. There's, in fact, our asthma hospitalization rates for children are 30% lower than for the rest of the country. So I have facts and figures. The progressives have emotions.
Yeah, they're good at that. They're really good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rehan from the Manhattan Institute had a debate about a year ago with somebody. I mentioned this to him when I was there. And I can't remember, my tweet was something like, here are 2 people who are really good at, reasoning and argumentation, debating 2 people who are really good at emoting. I wonder where they come up with this stuff. I just wonder, but it kind of makes sense. Like when you really think about it, if you're going to believe things that you can't justify, then you wouldn't engage in the process of a conversation, because that would require you justifying the things that you believe in that you don't have evidence for. So it kind of that people would opt out of that makes intuitive sense to me. Okay, so let's go back to something else that you said about the border.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an episode with Chris Martinson. It was a crazy episode about people coming in through the border. Oh, by the way, if you have a chance, the episode I did, getting back to what we spoke about before, really, really quickly. It's not out yet, but what was that, AB 155 or something? I can't remember. But I interviewed this guy who was a whistleblower. I lost a bet to Chris Rufo, and this was truly the most important interview I'd ever done about how the whole system is literally conspiring. This guy's a surgeon. It's literally conspiring. Eton Heim. It's coming out tomorrow. If you watch one interview I've done, that is the interview to watch. It's just extra crazy. Okay, so getting back to the border, and again, I made me think of that because I did that interview with Chris Martinson, where he told me that there's just a literal path, and everybody knows the path.
Right.
They know exactly how to come through, and you don't really have, coyotes, they used to call them. But so you want to make the argument, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the fentanyl is coming in from China through the southern border, to these massive holes in the southern border.
Right.
And you want to make the claim that you think it's important to close the border, particularly to illegal trafficking. Do I have that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, there's drug trafficking, there's human trafficking, and there's also God knows who, as far as military-aged men coming in from foreign countries. This is no longer a bunch of Hondurans or Guatemalans coming in, right? This is, you have men from Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, right? Is there going to be another 9/11 type attack because there are some, young, military-aged Muslim fundamentalist men who are coming in? I don't know, because
of course there will be. It's inevitable. I'm telling you, it's inevitable. And I'm going to make a prediction to you. I'm a big fan of making predictions. Once this happens, I can guarantee you what people will say. I will tell you, I would bet you with any odds, literally any odds you want, they would say, nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming. We had no idea that this was possible. So as a congressman,
just like they sat on that kid on the roof in Pennsylvania for 20 minutes before they actually did anything.
Right. That was right. Another kind of craziness. Okay. So I don't know the answer to this question. What power, if any, does a congressman have to influence the president to close the border?
Well, so
I have no idea.
Well, again, it's not that it's power, it's the Constitution, right? So the Constitution says that Congress makes the laws, so the legislative branch makes laws, the executive branch enforces the laws. And so that is your job. So this is a complete abandonment of his fiduciary duty laws. So the fact that they wanted to hold the border hostage for some deal where they're going to say, okay, we'll strengthen the border and then we're going to give the money to we'll give the money to Ukraine. If you vote for this, there are already laws. We should already have a border that prevents people from coming in illegally without proper documentation. So we don't need to make new laws. We just need to say that the people that we elect don't flout the laws, don't shirk their responsibilities. And so I think that if you elect people, who have gumption, who have strength. So somebody like, even if you don't like Donald Trump, somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, somebody who's going to say, okay, there are laws and we're going to uphold those laws and seal the border.
Yeah. So it is amazing to see, because when you look at poll after poll, people want the borders closed. Most people, actually, I would go way beyond that. Anyone who has an iota of common sense will realize that it's completely insane to let people come through the border who are not vetted. That's just like, I can't even, that's just so crazy.
Right.
My brain tends to not go toward conspiracies, but I know a lot of people have said that, well, a certain party in this country wants undocumented people because they can get more voters and on the rolls. I don't know what the thinking is there. I don't know, maybe if it's a kind of a ultra libertarian, let people move between markets. I don't know if it's a economic argument. But even those arguments, you would vet people, right? All but the most crazy. I think I heard Louis C.K. say something recently like, well, we've had it good long enough. Why not let other people have it good too? Like,
and again, so we've had a good long enough. We've had a good long enough because we had an orderly system.
Correct.
That prioritized certain things, that prioritized strength, that prioritized security, again, prioritized the health and wealth of its own citizens. So it's not that we're saying we can't invite more guests to the party. It's something that we're saying we have reached capacity, not that we've reached capacity, but we don't have enough resources, or we just need to, stem the flow. And I say this as the child of immigrants. Again, my parents came as refugees from the Middle East. They never looked back. They said, okay, we've been displaced from where we were, and they came to this country. And I keep saying that we need to recruit skilled, industrious immigrants who are going to
100%.
embrace our Constitution and integrate fully into American life, just like my parents did.
100%.
And my father was an engineer back in the old country, and when they got displaced, he didn't have his engineering license here. So what did the man do? He went to a very dirty, crime-ridden part of town, which is the only place that he could afford anything, leased a fried chicken joint, and learned how to operate a fried chicken joint until he could get his general contractor's license, and then start, building homes and things. But the man had to start from scratch at age 41, and that is exactly what he did. And because this country provided opportunities. And so if we're now suddenly opening up the border and giving away these opportunities, giving away free housing and free credit debit cards with, $600 on them, you get rid of the system that produced these successful immigrants. So that is what I think we need to do. But to get a points-based immigration system where you then recruit these people, what you need to do is you need to seal the border, because jumping the line is going to disrespect that system, is not going to give anybody any trust in that system. But when he talks about conspiracy theories, it'll take me back to Vivek, who's been accused of, so Vivek Ramaswamy endorsed my campaign. But people said, oh, he's such a conspiracy theorist. Well, he was one of the first people who said that Joe Biden's not going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. And lo and behold,
Correct.
Here we are. But he also said that they're bringing these people in and they're going to register as Democrats. if you're in California, and we tried this with my mother-in-law, who is English, she's not a citizen. So we went through and pretended, okay, you're going through in California, registering at the Secretary of State. It says, what is your name? What is your date of birth? What is your driver's license? What is your social security number? You can say, I don't have one. And it allows you to continue towards the end. And at the end, it has a checkbox and it says, I agree under penalty of on this. And then you can click submit. Now, we didn't click submit because that would have, that would be voter fraud. But this would be a federal law that you're breaking. California is a known sanctuary state that says that they will not cooperate with the federal authorities. So what should we believe when somebody comes in and says, okay, whether knowingly or unknowingly, is going to try to register to vote? And California has said and has shown in the past that it's not going to cooperate with federal authorities as a sanctuary state. What else should we believe?
Yeah, pause on that. I'm going to come back to that because I think it's important. Here is pull the Vivek Ramaswamy. Can you pull it up full, Reed, so we can see it? It's hard to read. That's his quote. While Vivek addresses the Democrats, end this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee, have the guts to step up and be honest about who you are actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that. And he was right. And then
he's brilliant.
He gets accused of being a conspiracy theorist. I just love it. Every time you think it's crazy, it just becomes even crazier. And none of the people are like, I accused the guy of being a conspiracy theorist. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Nope. Nobody likes that.
Nope.
Okay. So back to this idea that, okay, we want to put some pressure on the feds to close the border, to not link it to Ukraine or anything else. We realize that there are illegal drugs coming into this country, particularly fentanyl, which in my experience is, I don't have experience with the drug, but my understanding, even very small doses of this are lethal, and it's being laced in other drugs. It's being added to other drugs.
You have all of these overdoses of children, of high schoolers, who think that they're just kind of doing party drugs. I mean, when we were younger, that you'd go to some rave and somebody would have tablets of ecstasy or something, but these days nobody knows, and they're selling fentanyl, testing kits and things. So I think it's very treacherous, especially with social media and the connectivity there. I think it's absolutely treacherous that the fentanyl is making its way into these drugs that these kids have zero clue that they're taking. They have all these unintentional overdoses.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if you're younger listening to this, like, it's insane to me to just take a pill that someone gives you. Like, it's crazy. I have a friend of mine who works as she told me this story after 9/11. She's just such a wonderful person. She's an ER doc, and she was telling me the story that this woman went into the hospital and just started freaking out. And my friend said, well, what's the problem? And she said she found, this is a true story. She found, a pile of white powder on the ground, and she thought it was cocaine, so she snorted it. Then she realized it could have been like Ajax or something. So clearly she has some mental disorder, some kind of psychological problem. But it's really amazing how such a small number of people can be responsible. It's like when you're driving down a one-lane highway and one person's going 5 miles an hour, and like all the cars back up behind them. Right. Small number of people. Okay, so we've talked about the border. We've talked a little bit about homelessness. We've, in the book that really was wonderful to me was Schellenberger's San Francisco. That book was a remarkable book.
I agree.
I'm sorry he didn't become your governor. That would have been wonderful. And we've talked about the quote unquote gender affirming care. We've talked about a little bit about the economy. I'd like to focus on the other issue you talked about, which was the crime. So have the police been defunded? What's Laura's position on, or does she have one on crime and police and policing, and like what's going on with that? Fill us in.
Yeah. So the big thing going on right now in California is Prop 47, which was passed about 10 years ago, where the powers that be kind of duped us, the voters, into saying, "Oh, we need restorative justice. We need these."
Define that.
So, I restorative justice, again. Restorative justice means that you should have punishments or consequences that will restore somebody into a, productive member of society. And it's true in places like Norway, where you go, and prisons are oftentimes like university classes where people are actually learning, subjects, skills, something, because from day one, their prison sentence is meant to prepare them to be a productive member of society, to go and, have some craft or a job. And that's what restorative justice is. But simply here, it's a revolving door because it gives zero penalties for petty criminals. And then rather than them somehow miraculously learning their lesson without even a slap on the wrist, they then become more daring and they become violent criminals. And then that is why we have now many, many examples of people who were petty thieves or just had assaults or dismissed, or they're put on probation, and then suddenly now they murder somebody. So Prop 47 was what was sold to us as a bait and switch of, oh, this is going to be better. It's going to decrease the prison population. Essentially, what it did was just created this entire generation of would-be who did petty crimes, steal up to $950 worth of merchandise, and it's not going to be a felony. And then they said, okay, nobody's going to punish me for this. So we now have a proposition to repeal Prop 47 and kind of put in more stringent punishments for this. And of course, the state legislature, led by people like Laura Freedman, said, oh no, it's not restorative justice. And by the way, Laura Freedman is a member of the Restorative Justice Caucus. So they had their competing proposition, which, they thought, oh, wow, from the people, the punishments are too harsh. We shouldn't have punishments that are too harsh. Sorry, actions should have consequences. Crimes should have punishments. Otherwise, you're never going to learn. So she, again, is parroting the party line of being an apologist for criminals, saying society made them that way, being an apologist for homeless people, saying, oh, no, don't try to clean up their drug use. We should try to make it safer for them so they don't unintentionally overdose. Let's give them clean needles. So those are some of the views that she has. And again, progressive isn't working, and we're all sick of it.
Okay, so let's drill on that. So do you think you could link crime to progressivism and link the theory behind restorative justice, et cetera, to some real world consequences?
Yeah. And also, sorry, I also meant to say that Laura Freedman was an author of injection, safe injection drug sites. She actually authored a bill, AB 186, which said that. But yes, same as we learn homes, right? I mean, my mother ruled the home with an iron fist. Doesn't mean that my father didn't, but my father had an explosive temper. But my sister and we learned very quickly that with a raised voice, or if my mother, reaching for her slipper, and every Middle Eastern child knows that their mother's slipper, right? That means bad news. And you had those potential consequences, occasionally you would get, slapped with the slipper, and you say, okay, I don't want that sting on my backside anymore. And so that gave you this internal stopgap to prevent you from doing more. Also, I think that hand in hand is this lack of education. So not only is restorative justice, but you're getting taught in schools that, oh, nothing is your fault. It's society that is systemically racist against you. It's society that has stacked the cards against you, and you are not taught marketable job skills. You are not taught a trade. When's the last time you saw a shop class or home ec in schools?
I couldn't agree more.
Right. And so what happens is, if you produce people who don't have marketable skills, who will be unemployed or underemployed, I mean, the saying goes, idle hands are the devil's hands, but that is not inaccurate. So if you have a job that you're going to that has gainful employment, that keeps you occupied, that keeps your bills paid, you will tend to be more productive. You will tend to keep your nose clean and stay out of trouble. And I think that this whole notion of restorative justice and blaming your problems on somebody else and saying that you don't bear any responsibility for your actions, that is what prompts people to commit crimes, because they don't have that. They've not developed that internal stopgap mechanism.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One thing that I'm befuddled by, I just don't get this. I legitimately don't understand this. You can steal up to $950, and then people are posting all these videos of people stealing $900 worth of things, and they're just walking out. I don't know how to steelman that. I don't know what the steelman for that would be, for why someone would think that would be good. Like, I can't imagine
It's a
what
business
someone
model,
is.
Peter. It's a business model now, because now there are people, either the people who steal them, or I mean, there are these stories of these women in middle America who are paying people to rob, and they pay them whatever money, and they give them merchandise, and then they sell that on the secondary market on eBay. So these large tech companies, the eBays, the Amazons, Amazon Marketplace, eBay, they are also complicit, because they give, it's like a bazaar. It's like a Turkish bazaar with stolen. And unfortunately, there have been capitalized on this lawlessness, and they have developed these crime syndicates.
So, okay. So just as one point of contact for you. So Reed has a place in LA.
Yep.
And when we went there before, the place was awesome. I mean, there was like Chipotle there was Starbucks. I mean, it was like you could just walk out your door, you can get a cup of coffee, there's Jersey Mike's there.
Yep.
All of those businesses have closed down. Like, they're
Yeah.
all closed down. And someone was committing social justice on the street. They were defecating on the street.
Yep.
Oh yeah, there were 2 Starbucks within 300 feet. I mean, the place was great. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Starbucks myself. I think foreigners watching the show probably have a heart attack when I say that. But the Starbucks cold brew nitro is like literally the best cup of coffee that's ever been invented. Anyway,
it's your fentanyl.
yes, it is. It is my legal fentanyl. So anyway, all of those neighborhoods closed down. The place is a seedy shithole right now, and I don't know. Like, is there a way back from that's in Hollywood? Like, is there a way back from that? Oh no, did we lose him again? I'm dying to know what the answer to my question is.
I know I have 5 bars. Sorry about that.
Okay,
I'm back.
all right. Yeah.
You said
okay.
all of them closed down.
Yeah. I mean, so is there a way back from that? Like, people defecating, they're committing social justice on the street, and the businesses are closed, and like, it's just become a seedy dump. Like, is there a way back from that?
It's just like when you have a cockroach infestation in your house, you don't leave the house. What you do is you clean, right? So if you clean everything, if you get rid of your garbage, if you put all your garbage away and just clean up after yourself, the cockroaches will naturally go away. Not that I'm calling homeless people cockroaches, but if you uphold basic public decorum, if you enforce basic laws of cleanliness, of orderliness, of catching and prosecuting petty crimes, then you'll go ahead and naturally fix things without having to throw out the baby with the bathwater. You have, unfortunately, examples of stores like Kitson. So Kitson is a boutique in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills area. They also have a store in the Palisades. But the owner has had to resort to public shaming. So takes video, security camera grabs of people who come in and steal things, and then puts them public shaming. And of course, the internet is a wonderful place. As soon as he puts the pictures up, people have identified them. They have their LinkedIn profiles, and they are publicly shamed until they bring it back. And, that man has definitely gotten back a lot of stolen merchandise. But why does he have to pay property taxes, commercial property taxes on him? Why does he have to pay property taxes at his home, which fund government services, which fund police departments? Why are you having to do extra work when the money that you should be achieving that work? Again, let's focus on health, wealth, and security. Let's focus on making the government efficient. Another great example, there was a measure in LA County that defunded the police. So they'll say, oh no, we actually funded the police more. Well, no, you didn't. The actual money going to hiring police officers and putting them on the street went down. And then you did things like community liaisons. So in West Hollywood, it's a great example. They essentially told the LA Sheriff's Department, they said, we don't need you. We're going to hire community liaisons who are not armed. They're wearing these bright yellow vests, and they go around, and apparently they're supposed to, liaise with people, liaise with criminals. I think the conversion rate, meaning the rate, the percentage of liaison encounters that then ask for police backup because they couldn't get the job done, is about 100%. So they have this extra layer.
Such an idiotic idea. Like, think of all the things often I say to myself when I hear something like truly idiotic, I think to myself, like, think of all the other prior things you would have to believe that this this would be a good idea. So you think it's possible that Reed's neighborhood in LA there, you think it's like a kind of broken windows theory of policing? Like you think it's possible that, the other thing is, I remember a few years ago, I lived in New Orleans, and there was a Whole Foods kind of close to where we lived. And I would go in there and I would see an armed security guard in the Whole Foods. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, this is so terrible. Like, who wants to live like this? And then a few months ago, I was in Portland, or maybe not that long, but a month ago, I was in Portland, Oregon, and I was in a New Seasons, and I saw not one, two armed guards in the store. Yep. So real quick, because I've told the story before, but I spilled coffee on Reed's rug, and I went out to get coffee cleaner. So I walk out the door, and first thing I see is a guy committing social justice on the sidewalk. And then I go to the Dunkin' Donuts over there, and there's like a kiosk, so I don't even know if they accepted cash, and there's an armed guy. And then I go to the CVS, which is next door to that. This is in Hollywood. There's an armed guy at the gate. There's an roaming armed security guard. The carpet cleaner is behind plastic. I push. I'm just waiting for this woman to come. She's not coming. I haven't had my coffee. I spilled on this carpet. I go out to the place across the street. There's another armed guard. Yeah. I mean, you really think there's a way back from this?
Absolutely, there's a way back from it. And what you need to do is, number one, fund the police. Number two, get more bodies out there. Right. Number two, get more bodies out there. Number three, make examples out of people, right?
Yeah.
Like arrest shoplifters in front of everybody. Charge them with a crime, prosecute them, punish them. And again, I'm not saying that I get it. I get it. People say that, we want justice to be blind. We don't want there to be systemic racism. I absolutely get that. And I think that is a very fair point to bring up. And I think that we should make justice blind, and we should say, okay, are we getting an unnecessary number and a lopsided number of, non-white person of color being charged? I think that's absolutely valid point to bring up and look into. However, globally decreasing arrests, globally decreasing prosecutions, that is not the way to do it. And we are proof positive that doesn't work.
Yeah, I wonder. Okay, so enforcing the law, not defunding the police as a minimum,
basic stuff, right? Common sense stuff.
Yeah, I mean, more basic respect for law enforcement. This idea of you can steal $950 of stuff is crazy. We were in a sorry about all my stories. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I love hearing them.
We were in a store. Travis and I were in a store. Of course, it's in Portland, and we see some homeless guy walking out of the store with groceries and in clear view of everybody.
Yep.
And was that Reed? I think it was Travis. But anyway, and I said to the guy, like, what was going on with that? This guy just walked out with a bunch of groceries. He's like, yeah, we're told not to do anything. I'm like, well, so like I could just walk out like anyone. So then I went to the bathroom. I come back and I saw another guy a homeless guy walking out of the store with groceries. And then I thought to myself, like, and the guy said, well, don't tell anybody that you can walk out of the store with groceries and we can't do anything. And of course I tweeted out like, hey, come get your free groceries. Here you go. But it seems, I don't know, like if I guess the crazy thing about all this stuff is like, if you went back in time just a few years, and told people like, listen, you can grab anything you want from the store. You can like, that is just not from the same people screaming about sustainability. That is the most unsustainable system. But of course they don't want an unstable system. They don't want a sustainable system. They want to overthrow the patriarchy. They want to overthrow the oppressive racist system. And what a better way to do that than to have a kind of at groceries equity or something. So, but you're optimistic that we can reverse this insanity that's overcome us.
We can, and so I'll tell you another law that they did. So in their intelligence, in their divine wisdom, our state legislature passed a law that prevented employers from compelling their employees to chase shoplifters. So essentially, an employer who said to the employee, police prevent shop. That's against the law. And what they would have to do is they would have to hire a separate dedicated security company, which is why you see all those. So if you're a small business owner like me, right? I have a private practice, but if I'm a small business owner with a shop, you had a lot of Indian immigrants, right, who have gas stations, and they're like, I can't afford to hire separate security, right? So not only is that illegal, but they all had to develop and implement an employee safety system that tracked and documented any loss from the store and what interactions they did. And it's like all these people said, okay, now you're giving me an extra layer of bureaucracy that I have to maintain. And if I have to, get my business license, retain my business certificate, I have to show you these things. So it's absolutely crazy. And so how is it going to change? I am running for Congress, right? These laws are all in the state assembly. So, but I want to be that moderate voice, that moderate Republican, that center-right person who says, look, this is no longer a question of Democrat versus Republican. This is a question of progressive versus non-progressive. And I want to be that middle of the road person.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they say, why can I not have balanced budgets and law and order without having you run my life like I'm at a Sunday school? Right? Because that's what the Republican Party often gives them, or that's at least the appearance. So I am that person who's not going to have to make you choose between law and order balanced budgets and living your life without any governmental intrusion. So I want to be that individual who just says, okay, let's recruit, let's inspire this entire new generation of people with jobs, citizen legislators, I call them, to run for office, get rid of these who, even if they don't believe that, are parroting these lines and pledging this allegiance to the party platform because they have this unquenchable thirst of advancing in the party and consolidating their power. And I think if, regular people stop looking for the best candidate and start being the best candidate, I think that and the easiest way to reverse all this.
Excellent. Okay. So would you be willing to debate your opponent about, as a general rule, I'm against debate. I'm for conversation, but in this particular context, in a political context, I think debates are very important. Would you be willing to debate your opponent?
I am more than happy. I engage people, so I'm more than happy to speak with her. The trouble is she, if she runs a campaign where she doesn't mention my name, where she doesn't speak, that is actually what's going to be beneficial for her. So it's not in her interest, but I invite her because people want honest discussion. They want honest debate. They don't want people parroting party lines.
Yeah,
and she's also called me an extremist. She also doesn't want to debate with me because she's called me an extremist who has extremist views and is hyper aggressive.
Extremist was hyper aggressive. That's funny.
Yep.
An extremist. Helen Pluckrose was called a dangerous woman. I don't know if you know who Helen Pluckrose is, but she's anyway. Which is funny because Helen Pluckrose is actually an extraordinarily dangerous woman. She's a very, very smart, very thoughtful, staunch defender of Enlightenment values. Okay, so you're running for CA-30 as a congressional candidate. I'll give you a plug. If someone's on the fence, why should they vote for you?
Yeah. So again, Alex Balekian, born and raised in the district. I am a practicing physician. I'm running my practice while I run this campaign. I am a Duke Majan Republican, which means keep the streets safe and clean, stay out of my bank account, stay out of my family life. I am that center-right individual, that moderate person. Again, I'm an endangered species. I am a gay Republican who does not believe in a federal ban on abortion. So I'm that middle-of-the-road person who thinks that it's okay to say that we should focus on ourselves first, bolster our own, Medicare, Social Security, don't touch that, but prioritize things that we would spend our own money on. And as I said, term limits are near and dear to my heart. I am not looking to make a switch over, in midlife. I'm still going to be practicing medicine while I go to Congress. And I would like to pass term limits, pass the baton on to somebody else after 4 or 6 years, and try to inspire this entire generation of citizen legislators. I also want to remind people at home that this political campaign, these billboards that we're getting, they are not paying for themselves. We are working hard and diligently, and I would like to invite people to go to our website. You can either go for alexforca30.com, or you can just go to alexbalekian.com. But either way, we'd appreciate your help. I mean, we are as grassroots as it gets. I have not taken any money from special interest PACs. Last quarter alone, my opponent, Laura Freedman, raised $50,000 from special interest PACs, most of them unions. So we actually outraised her in individual donations last quarter, 180,000 to her, 145,000, 150,000. So this is possible. We are developing a groundswell into a tidal wave, but it's not going to be possible without people. And again, I would love your vote, and I would love you to reach out to us. I'm more than happy to come and talk. And when you see me on the streets, please say hello.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic. All right, Alex, thank you so much for being on Conversation with Peter Boghossian. I don't endorse any candidates. I don't endorse anyone, but I would like to come and watch you debate if that's the case. And Laura's, again, she's 100% welcome on my show. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with her. If not, then I'll have to have another ChatGPT conversation. Oh, we have one super chat from a friend of the show, Trader Bear, for $9.99. Hi, Trader Bear. Hammer away against woke issues. Voters are sick of woke. My 2 cents. Enjoy the conversation. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. And I think it should be, as you said, a matter of evidence. Like, what is the evidence for this gender? What is the evidence? And then we follow the evidence. And if there is no evidence, then we need to change course immediately. And there's no time for recrimination. There's no time for it. It's a matter of urgency, and it's incredibly serious. Anyway, thank you very much for being on the show. Keep your camera, keep everything on, because we're going to upload and read. Thank you again for being behind the scenes. We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for watching. Everything we do is under the umbrella of the National Progress Alliance, nationalprogressalliance.org. It's a nonprofit, independent 501c3. Your generous donations keep us going and keep fueling content like this. So please help us out. Make a donation. We very much appreciate it. Thank you.